Hello. So I was sent an email from Dolly, and she shared a list of verses that I think the thread of those verses, she encouraged me to respond in what comes out. The verses, they had something to do with our heart, and about roots and ground and fruit and grafting, along with the importance of Jesus and in our relationship with God. Now, the way I responded, and the point I wanted to make is has to do with some vision. And so when we decide to commit our lives to Jesus and truly treat Jesus as our King and the King of Kings and serve, as we practice doing that, we can encounter God and the Holy Spirit through this serving, this practice of serving and committing our lives to Jesus. And it will flow to us through our heart. Now, this is a decision we can do at each moment, and so we can remember. And in agricultural terms, it would be a grafting in. And so at each moment, we can graft ourselves into, the good root, the good earth, the good vine, the good trunk, such that we get to taste the good fruit, which is written about in Galatians, the fruit of the Holy Spirit. And it flows naturally. It doesn't have to be forced. Now, what can happen, and what I was reading in some of the verses, was that there are branches that are grafted in, and then there are branches that are not grafted in, and then they wither, and they are thrown into the flames. And so what I'd said is that there is a confusion. And so if remember is the grafting, the confusion is a grafting into a tree, a trunk, a vine with roots, which is not producing the fruit of the Holy Spirit. And so those fruit would be pain and suffering and torment and misery, things like that. And so there are fruit from the good tree, the good vine that includes Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God. And then there are fruit from a bad tree, which includes all of these things which cannot coexist with the fruit of the Holy Spirit naturally. And so becoming withered and casted into the fire, I think there can be a confusion. The confusion is that there is a place you go after you die. There's a fiery place which you can go after you die, or a heavenly place you go after you die. And there is a confusion. This whole idea is a confusion, because the truth is that here and now, we can notice the fruit within our heart and notice if it is the fruit of the Holy Spirit or not, which tells us about which kingdom we are in and which king we are serving at every moment. And so one of the ways, I'll put it this way, people can become confused, can become tricked. And it's often with the use of a language game. People will play language games in order to cause confusion, such that we believe that we are grafted into the good tree and a part of the good kingdom when we are not. And so there is a confusion. And notice that if we expect the kingdom to be this place that we go to after we die, then we are at risk of neglecting the here and now and the kingdom which is at hand. the fruit which we can taste here and now. And so it's a clever trick. The king of the kingdom, which is not God's kingdom, is a tricky, sly, clever, like it's very easy to slip and fall into that kingdom in which we get to experience these fruit which are not holy and participate in the growth, the produce, the production of the fruit which is not holy. And so this is why we have to be careful about the confusion, and we have to love the truth. So let me know what you think, and that's actually an important point. Our teachers, our rabbis, should want to receive feedback in order to facilitate error correction and the reduction of corruption, such that the tree is most healthy, such that we participate in the kingdom and are able to bring more people into the kingdom. So, for example, when a body that you're a part of is causing harm to young ones, this would be an antichrist pattern. And the way that that persists is that there is a corruption in which the decision-making body is either unwilling or unable to receive feedback about errors, about mistakes, about confusion. And so there is a lot of confusion within everybody. And that's why we all have to remember to be humble. Remember that we have blind spots. Thank God for that, because then it encourages us to invite others to help shine light into the darkness, into those blind spots which we all have. So leave a comment. If and when you think I'm making a mistake, I'd love for you to leave a comment. Just let me know. That's the kind of person I practice trying to be. When I receive criticism, it hits me hard. But I've cultivated a practice of noticing, when I receive the criticism, noticing what happens. And it hits me hard when I'm in the wrong kingdom. And I notice the fruit of that kind of misery which happens when someone accuses you. And because I've somehow developed a sensitivity to noticing the feelings which emerge and the fruit which emerge, and those kind of unholy fruit, I then can check myself and say, I might be wrong. I might be wrong. I have the faith of a mustard seed. That's all it takes. You can have the faith of the mustard seed that you might be right. You could have the faith of the mustard seed that you might be wrong. And you provide opportunity to be corrected. So, why is it important? I think it's important because God gives us freedom, gives us agency, gives us a will of our own, such that we can choose to remember Jesus at each moment, or we can become confused at each moment. That's available to us. It's something we can participate in. And so there needs to be a fear. This is something that I've encountered just in the last 24 hours, is this concept of having a fear. And that fear, maybe it's another word could be a healthy respect for the fact that you might be wrong, that you might not be doing God's will. The faith of a mustard seed that you might be wrong. And so when you respond in the comments, I will assume that you will be responding with that faith as well, that you might be wrong, but you also might be right. And I'll try to approach that interaction with the same stance. It's a humble stance. It's it's balanced so that you don't get knocked over. If you're standing with an imbalanced stance, you can get knocked over very quickly. And so simultaneously, the faith of the mustard seed of seeing paths that are good, that maybe this is God's will and it will be good for the kingdom, but simultaneously, a foot in the other direction in the stance to say, the faith of a mustard seed, that this might be wrong. How do you know? This is where we need help. This is where, when two or more gather in my name, kind of thing. And we're figuring it out, or at least I'm figuring it out. I'm practicing it with others. And I'd like for us to learn how to do it better at scale. And I think when we attempt to historically, as things grow in size and grow in scale, that's when the corruption enters, because we have a hard time dealing with scale. We have a hard time dealing with large bodies. When there's two people gathering in my name, gathering in the pursuit of committing our lives to Jesus, that's much easier than three. As soon as you have three people, it gets a little harder. All of a sudden you have 30 people, it's much harder. Talk to a teacher who's trying to teach a classroom with 2 or 3 children versus 30 children. And that keeps getting harder as more people are added. And so the key, and you can look to Jethro, who was Moses. Moses had a father-in-law named Jethro who came in and kind of saved the day. Because Moses did not know how to handle the scale problem. And they set up a situation so that Moses could receive feedback, even though there was this large amount of people. And so that's what you have to look for, is whether or not the decision-making body within, that is a part of a larger body, is able to receive feedback or not. And so we can try to lead by example and be people who are willing and able to receive feedback. And then as things scale, we'll have to learn to adapt as things grow. We can do it. The faith of a mustard seed, we can do it. And the faith of a mustard seed is like, I might be making a mistake, and I'm ready to pivot if needed. All right. With love. Have a good one.